This episode we're taking a look at Star Wars Republic Commando, a beloved tactical FPS released by Lucasarts for the Xbox and Windows PC. While Nintendo and PlayStation were initially omitted, in 2021 the game was ported and released on the Switch and PS4. This game came out in 2005, and man were Star Wars fans eating good. Obviously that was the year Revenge of the Sith came out, but Republic Commando was also joined by the Revenge of the Sith video game, Battlefront 2, and LEGO Star Wars. This game follows Delta Squad, a special unit of the clone army consisting of 4 clone commandos. As the player, you assume the role as Delta 3-8, known as Boss, and work with your 3 squad mates, Delta 6-2, known as Scorch, Delta 4-0, known as Fixer, and Delta 07, known as Sev. Just like with Star Wars Bounty Hunter, this game is set in the expanded/Legends universe. It takes place between episodes 2 and 3 at various points of the Clone Wars. Although the story of this game is no longer officially canon, Delta Squad seemingly still is, as they have appeared in the Clone Wars animated series and Scorch has appeared in Bad Batch. This is one of those games where just opening the main menu and hearing the theme song is enough to tell you you're in for a good time. The story is structured through 3 different assignments that take place throughout the Clone Wars. The first one takes place on Geonosis, the second on a Republic assault ship, and the third on Kashyyyk. Throughout the game, you're debriefed by an unnamed clone advisor who communicates all your objectives to your squad. This game is basically the Star Wars Halo, and before anyone gets mad at me for saying that, I didn't make that up. I'll probably be mentioning Halo a lot though, so let me just say sorry in advance. And besides, that's a pretty great compliment. Halo 1 and 2 are awesome, and while Halo 2 technically did come out a year before, this game was likely in development at the same time, so most of the inspiration that it took from the franchise would have been from Halo 1. The biggest thing that I can immediately point out is the shield system, which at least also works within Star Wars lore. Even the movement in this game is a bit floaty like Halo's. The sci-fi setting of Star Wars is also closer to the futuristic setting of Halo. I can definitely see the inspiration and similarities. The helmet HUD is kinda neat, but it takes up a lot of the screen. I also like this cool windshield wiper thing you get when you get crap on your visor. The big, defining feature of this game is your AI squad. Not only are they with you for most of the game, but you also have the ability to issue commands to them. Around certain debris and blockades, you will see a prompt allowing you to position a squad mate at that location. They will then either provide coverage with a sniper rifle, lob grenades towards the enemy, or shoot anti-armor rounds. Repressing the prompt button will remove them from that position. These commands are vital in successfully advancing through the game. There are a couple of commands you can issue to the entire squad, but the only ones I found really useful were search and destroy to detach them from their posted spots, and group up, which I used occasionally to retreat them from battle. Some other prompts in this game involve doing a time-based event, like slicing a terminal or planting a charge. Doing this takes a couple seconds real time, so either you have to stick the prompt or command a squad mate to do it. This is where some strategy is involved. Fortunately, the timer doesn't reset if you let go, so even if you or a squad mate goes down while activating it, the progress won't be completely lost. Another interesting feature of this squad system is that when you run out of health, you'll get incapacitated instead of dying. You can then issue your squad mates to continue the battle or retreat and revive you first. This really saved me numerous times throughout the game. You can also command your squad mates to revive each other. However, in the parts of the game where you're by yourself, when you die, you die. Alright, let's talk about the gunplay. I already mentioned the movement feels similar to Halo, and honestly the gunplay does too. You can ADS, which is different, but aside from that it feels familiar. There are 4 weapons that you always carry, although technically 3 of those are different variations of the DC-17M interchangeable weapon system. The first is an assault rifle. Fully auto, decent damage, standard stuff. Unfortunately, I end up running out of ammo fairly often, but that leads us to weapon number 2, which is a blaster pistol. The pistol utilizes an overheat meter, which ensures that you at least always have some kind of ranged weapon, which is nice. It's pretty weak though. The next is a sniper rifle mode. This is great. It does good damage, especially if you shoot for the head. The last attachment is an anti-armor grenade launcher mode. This thing is beast. It one-shots super battle droids, which I'll talk more about later. You also have a 5th weapon slot which you can use to pick up guns you find on the ground, such as enemy weapons and Wiki bowcasters. You can melee enemies with a short blade that comes out of your wrist. It's decent in a pinch, but for the most part you'll want to keep your distance from enemies. There's a couple different grenades you can use as well, but I find the regular detonator and the EMP grenade to be the best. So if you're not familiar with the Halo-styled shield system, how it works is that it's your first line of defense. Once your shield is depleted, any additional damage you take will then deplete your health. Like in Halo, only your shields regenerate. In Halo, replenishing health was done by picking up these health packs, usually mounted on a wall or dropped by a bunch of dead Marines. In this game, you heal via conveniently placed Bacta tanks. However, unlike in Halo where a health pack is a one-time use, you can use the Bacta tanks as often as you want. So if you move forward a bit and get smoked in the next room, you can backtrack and heal up again. Your squad's health is also indicated on the HUD, and you can order them to use the tanks as well. Sometimes they'll do it by themselves, but in the heat of the moment they tend to prioritize fighting. Throughout the game you'll be fighting the CIS, Geonosians, and Trandoshans. I assume most of you will recognize CIS droids and Geonosians from the films, but if you're wondering what Trandoshans are, they're the species that Bosk is. So those standing reptile-looking guys. They're mercenaries and slavers, which is why the CIS are affiliated with them. I'd consider there to be 3 different tiers of enemy difficulty. The lowest tier includes battle droids, some of the Trandoshan mercenaries, some of the Geonosians, and these little scavenger droids. These enemies are fairly easy to take down, and while they might not pack a huge punch, they can still catch you off guard sometimes. The Geonosians are also different compared to the ones seen in Attack of the Clones. They have spears and are much bigger in stature. The next tier is where it starts to hit the fan. First we've got the Geonosian elites. They've got this beam weapon and it does so much damage. When they die they'll drop the weapon, which is awesome to use. Apparently it's powered by their own blood. Gross. There's also the Trandoshan elites. These guys are pretty tanky, and they carry the ACP Heavy Repeater, which is sorta like a chain gun. Then we got one that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, the Droideka. These guys aren't too tough, but stand in their line of fire for too long and you'll be toast. Later in the game you'll encounter some Magna Guards. In this game, they are pretty dope. They don't have capes, but they do have the staff. While they are fairly tanky, they tend to flip around and mostly aggro your squad mates, making them easier to take down than you'd think. And now I saved the best for last, the super battle droids. If you're familiar with these droids from the movies, you're probably thinking, well, what's the big deal? I watched R2-D2 destroy 2 of these by himself. Well, once you realize how terrifying these things are, you'll realize what a disservice the prequels did to the CIS. I can't even blame you because I thought the same thing. You can command your squad to focus fire on one enemy, but even then it still takes a while to take one down. The super battle droid stands there, 1 versus 4, just eating a bunch of blaster fire. Now there's only one enemy in the 3rd tier, but I had to put it in a tier of its own since it's sort of like a mini boss, which is the spider droid. To defeat it you have to shoot at the red spot, the only weak point. It fires missiles, but if you get it to aggro your squad instead of yourself, then it's more lengthy than anything. Alright, I think that covers all the fundamental stuff, so let's jump into the story recap. The game has 3 difficulties. We're gonna go with normal. I had a feeling if I tried it on hard, you guys might never see this video. So as I mentioned earlier, the plot is set through 3 different assignments. The first one is on Geonosis, but before that the game will play a short game-rendered cinematic that runs through the creation of the commando you play and how Delta Squad is formed. It's pretty cool. Each assignment has multiple levels that are denoted with a loading screen. However, in-game you pretty much begin each one exactly where you ended the previous one. This seamless transition makes it easy to binge this game. The first couple levels for Geonosis are pretty short, as the game has to teach you the controls and game mechanics. As far as the story goes, Delta Squad is deployed to Geonosis to eliminate one of Pago the Lesser's lieutenants, Sun Fac. Each member of your squad takes a separate transport ship, so naturally the first objective is to link up with all your squad mates. I apologize for the HUD shaking around a lot. There's a setting to reduce it, but it took me a while to figure out what it was called. I'm also playing on PC using some kind of patch to make it run better in HD, so there may be some other inconsistencies with the console version or with how you remember it. While you don't have your squad mates at the beginning, you do get a couple of normal clones, which is neat. Oh, well that sucks. You're only fighting standard battle droids and Geonosians here. Eventually you link up with Scorch. He's the comic relief explosives expert. The game then gives you your first opportunity to order Scorch to plant an explosive charge to clear some debris. While it may seem like Scorch is the only one who can plant explosives, it turns out any squad member can. In fact, it seems they're all able to do everything at the same efficiency. They can all slice panels, plant charges, and provide sniper, grenade, or anti-armor coverage. Gameplay-wise, this is way better. Next, you link up with Fixer. His persona is that of a typical soldier, and he's the hacker man of the group. Occasionally you'll run into a sealed door and can choose how you want to approach the room behind it. You can either do a squad breach, which is a quick hack followed by one of your squad mates throwing a grenade in, or do a longer hack and enter quietly. In one of the rooms you enter, there's no light, so you'll need to switch your visor to low light mode. Most milsim shooters use a green filter, but this one is a black and white one. It's actually not bad, at least the visual clarity is still good. As you close in on Sun Fac, you link up with Sev, the badass sniper.
07 locking into your HUD, sir.
Oh, that kinda sounds familiar. He almost sounds like the voice used for the clones in Battlefront 2.
The Republic is in control of a command post. We've lost control of a command post.
It's not David Boat, but it's similar.
Don't worry. I saved some targets for you guys.
While we're on voices, I might as well mention that every commando is voiced by a different person. Your character, Boss, is voiced by Tem.
Put someone on that turret, Deltas.
It's really nice to hear his voice in so many games. Anyways, you spot Sun Fac in the next room, and I guess you're supposed to ambush him, but as soon as you shoot the glass, he takes off. You pursue him to a small hangar, and he tries to leave in a starfighter. You give Sev the command to snipe the ship down, and there we go, mission accomplished. Delta Squad gets immediately assigned another task that a different squad of commandos failed to accomplish, which is shutting down the droid factory. So you fight your way to the factory, fighting lots of Geonosians, including some of the Geonosian elites. In the factory, you'll eventually blow up 2 power conduits and shut it down. Now, Delta Squad gets another assignment. I guess we're doing too good of a job. So the plan now is to sneak onto a disabled Separatist core ship. But before we do, we have to make a pit stop to disable an anti-aircraft bunker that's doing numbers on our air force. So you trek over to it, fighting Geonosians and droids along the way. Once you reach the bunker, you enter these rooms with windows, and if you don't close them using the terminals, the Geonosians will keep flying in. The squad blows up the main turret controls, which take care of this anti-air bunker. As you proceed to the core ship, you get stopped by a spider droid for the first time. Once you take it down, some air support will take down the shield, allowing you to enter the core ship. Now that we're in here, we apparently need to split up to be more efficient. It's kinda sad that you already have to leave your squad mates after spending a relatively short amount of time with them. You go up this elevator thing and end up in some kind of storage area. It seems pretty barren until you turn around and find a rack full of super battle droids. At this point, you've just struggled against a few of these with your whole squad, so you're not expecting to be able to take them down easily by yourself. And you just know some of them are bound to wake up. When I was a kid, I was so scared of going through this area that I actually stopped playing the game for a few days. Some of them do wake up, but luckily there's a Bacta tank nearby so you can do some healing shenanigans and take them down. Eventually you take another elevator up and end up in one of the ship's main corridors. You sabotage the storage racks and go to rendezvous with the squad. Of course, you have to trek through another set of storage racks, and because you just blew them up, a bunch of the supers have woken up. After taking another lift up, you link up with Sev, but the droidicas are active now. They're not too tough, like I said, but taking one down is cumbersome for 2 people. You meet up with Fixer and Scorch, who are being pinned down by a bunch of droids. After rescuing them, you'll then find a droid dispenser that will crap out battle droids until you blow it up. Well, that's a pain in the ass. You better not have one for super battle droids, am I right? So at this part, I ordered a slice on this door, but for some reason it only like half opened before my squad started rubbing up against it. What are they doing? I thought my game was broken. Thankfully, I was able to use a squad command to get them to move back from the door, which I guess got jammed due to a proximity bug. The rest of the level is fairly straightforward. You fight a lot of enemies, including a spider droid, more of the Geonosian elites, and super battle droids. Once you get to the main control room or whatever, you just have to download the launch codes. From my understanding, these launch codes will help prevent some of the Separatist fleet from retreating. The slice is really long though. Probably the longest in the game so far. When the slice is complete, you just have to haul ass down this corridor and board a transport ship to safety. And with that, our work on Geonosis is done. The next assignment happens over a year later, 367 days into the Clone Wars. A Republic assault ship that went missing has magically reappeared, and Delta Squad is sent to investigate. The Republic assault ship, known as the Prosecutor, is an Acclamator-class assault ship. This means that this thing is big, and we're gonna have to spread out to begin the investigation. Each commando will have to retrieve data from one of the 4 data cores. We're in charge of the aft data core. Halfway through the debrief, you lose contact with the advisor, which is always a good sign. All by myself inside of this big, empty ship. This even reminds me of the level in Halo where you return to the Covenant ship only to find it overrun by the Flood. Pretty early into the level, you also lose contact with Scorch after he's heard struggling over the comms. You eventually meet a lone survivor. Turns out he was just hiding like a coward, but then he gets killed by a scavenger droid. A terrible omen of what's to come. When you get to this room, you'll need to use night vision, and you'll get attacked by a bunch of the scavenger droids. I don't know if I suck or what, but these things can be hard to hit, and they do so much damage. I actually died several times in this part. The worst thing about them is that sometimes when you kill them, they'll spiral towards you and explode on impact. On the way to our data core, we find that the passage has been blocked by debris. I guess blowing it up is out of the question, so we'll have to go around. The alternative route leads us to Sev, but he gets attacked and abducted by Trandoshan slavers. This first set of Trandoshans carry blades, making them easy to dispatch, but when you're getting attacked by them and the scavenger droids, it gets hectic. So the new plan is that we've got to get down to where Sev was and take care of the starboard data core. After crawling through the vents again, you see another clone get cranked by a Trandoshan using a shotgun. I thought the guy walked away, but once I rounded the corner, I got shot immediately. Actually a corner camper. And now here's something new. The enemies will start using these proximity mines. You can defuse them by crouch walking up to them and sticking the defuse. Your squad mates can also defuse them. When you get to the starboard data core, you'll start to fight more of the Trandoshans with shotguns. However, you can actually pick them up now, and boy is it awesome. Sev's body is gone, likely taken by the Trandoshans. You retrieve the data and move back to your original assignment, which is the aft data core. Eventually you'll come across the ship's auto turret still being active, and Boss will point out that if the Trandoshans hack them, that could be bad. Yet another terrible sign of things to come. Alright, more clones.
I could use the help.
Oops. The aft data core room is in terrible shape. It's swarming with Trandoshans, but the shotgun is goated. Anyways, with the flight data now secured, we're going to rendezvous with Fixer. On the way, you'll encounter a Trandoshan elite. Certainly packs a punch if you're not expecting it, but once you get his gun, oh man. When you reach the rendezvous point, out of nowhere a Trandoshan wheels in one of the droid dispensing machines. Well, that sucks. How are you supposed to blow that up by yourself? Luckily, Fixer arrives, but he gets stuck on the other side of this door. He begins to slice it, and thankfully you just have to hold out until he hacks the door open. So now that we've got Fixer, it's time to get Sev. You eventually find him being tortured by Trandoshans. After saving Sev, you head into the next area, which turns out to be the ship's brig. You eventually find the cell that Scorch is being held in. You revive him, and hallelujah, the band is back together. Delta Squad takes an elevator up to the ship's bridge and destroys the jamming device to restore comms with Command. Command and the squad deduce that the Trandoshans are going to sell the ship to the Separatists for a large army of droids. The advisor instructs Delta Squad to destroy a Trandoshan dropship that is in one of the hangars. And for the moment you knew was coming but were kinda hoping it wouldn't, the Super Battle Droid Dispenser. What a pain in the ass. You eventually get to the elevator and take it down, but it ends up being booby-trapped and you get dumped back into the brig. In an obvious nod to A New Hope, the squad jumps down one of the garbage chutes and finds a bunch of dead clones in it. Then a scavenger droid comes in with another dead body. Damn, that's actually pretty sad. Once you reach the hangar, you clear it of the Trandoshans and then use some rocket turrets to blow their ship up. So that takes care of them. The Separatists show up in a Trade Federation battleship to complete the deal with the Trandoshans, who are now all dead because we just killed them. Command calls for help, and Captain Talbot of the RAS Arrestor responds. He's on the way, but it doesn't sound like he'll be here anytime soon. So now the four of us have to set up a defense all by ourselves. The initial plan is to go to each hangar and blow up the force field regulators to keep the Separatists from boarding. And while you're trying to do this, there's droid dispensers all over the place. The last hangar, Hangar D, is a total shitfest. Command actually tells you not to engage the dispensers or you die. The squad decides to bunker down in the back. Command tells us to slice a terminal to get the lift working. When the slice is complete, an ATTE comes up on the lift, and when you get inside it, it's pretty much free reign over the hangar. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to really drive this thing, so once the hangar is clear, your time with it is over. The Separatist battleship realizes we have regained control and starts to open fire on us. With the engines offline, our only option is to fire back, so Delta Squad is instructed to head to the turbo laser controls. After battling your way to the controls, you have to slice 3 terminals. In the nick of time, Talbot shows up in the RAS Arrestor, and the combined firepower from the 2 ships is enough to destroy the Trade Federation battleship. Doing so also deactivates all the remaining droids aboard the Prosecutor. The assault ship investigation comes to a close, with the event providing evidence of a potential alliance between the Separatists and Trandoshan mercenaries. About another year later, the Trandoshans invade Kashyyyk, starting a slave trade. The Wookiees ask the Republic for help. The first task is to rescue Wookiee leader Tarful, who has been captured and imprisoned in one of the Trandoshan slave camps. After infiltrating the camp, the squad notices an incoming ship. They send the silhouette to Command, and the advisor is confused as it is General Grievous's ship. This leaves the squad puzzled as they question why the Separatists would be here. When you reach the detention center, you free some Wookiees, but none of them are Tarful. The freed Wookiees do help you in battle though. Further in the camp, you find Tarful being escorted by some Magna Guards. Command also wants a sighting on General Grievous to verify his presence. You spot him through a window. After reaching Tarful, you'll have to fight one of the Magna Guards for the first time. They're incredibly tanky, and Tarful also kept getting in the way. I don't know if he can die, but the advisor was stressing that he must survive. Now that the Republic has confirmation of a Separatist alliance with the Trandoshans, Delta Squad is ordered to move deeper into the camp and to try to disrupt the operation as much as possible. While infiltrating this camp, you can use these big turrets, which are awesome. You pretty much just keep moving forward, killing everything in sight. The squad eventually learns that this is a supply outpost and pit stop the Separatists are using for their invasion of Kashyyyk. You blow up one of the landing pads, but then discover there's another one in the lower level of the base. On your way to the next one, there's this one area with a little pit and a super battle droid dispenser blocking your path. When I sent Scorch in for the bomb plant, they oddly didn't shoot at him. Lucky. Just ahead of the next landing pad, you encounter a spider droid, but luckily you can just slice a panel and squash it with some cargo. Right as you're about to destroy the landing pad, a bunch of droid dispensers drop out of nowhere. Fortunately, a clone transport ship arrives, blows up the landing pad, and the squad exfils. As the Separatist invasion rages on, Delta Squad is deployed to Kachiro. They are tasked with destroying a bridge to sever the connection between Separatist and Wookiee territory. You battle through the Wookiee Tree City. there's a lot of Trandoshans and droids to fight. When you eventually get to the bridge, you'll find a ton of resistance on the other side, including a couple of super battle droid dispensers. I decided to try to kill everything first, which mostly worked, although I almost got my squad wiped. When you plant the charge on the bridge and detonate it, it doesn't end up working. Wouldn't be a good story without some kind of twist, right? Command says there's a fuel line running under the bridge, and a well-placed rocket could blow it up. Before we can head to a suitable firing position, you get attacked by a spider droid. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the turret on it because to get into it, you have to be on the other side of this debris. Once you defeat it, you find a conveniently placed rocket launcher and blow up the bridge. Now that we're in Separatist territory, we've got to find Tarful and reunite him with the rest of his soldiers, who are pinned down at the other end of the bridge. On the way, Tarful says the Separatists have seized the ammo dumps on the loading docks, so the squad heads there to retake control of it. We got attacked by some Geonosian elites, which actually decimated my squad, but luckily Tarful was on a turret and saved me. With the loading dock secured, we just need to escort Tarful to the rendezvous point. Once you get there, you fight a couple of Magna Guards. Some Wookiees will escort Tarful to the rest of his troops, while Delta Squad are assigned to the main citadel of the tree. The main objective is to destroy the Separatist dropship that is hovering above the tree. This level doesn't mess around. You'll be fighting every enemy type in the game. In one of the hangars, a couple of the Wookiees are pinned down and need saving. One of them died before I could even see them, but I think the second one is scripted to survive. In this part, you have to slice a couple of different consoles to fire up a power generator. Not only is the slice pretty long, but it's in the middle of nowhere with not much coverage, and then you get attacked by a bunch of Geonosian elites. It took me a few tries, but I was able to cheese it by taking cover by one of the doors. Eventually you'll find another set of Wookiees battling in another hangar. They're in a scuffle with 3 Magna Guards. Unfortunately, one of the Wookiees got jumped by all 3 of them and died. It surprisingly wasn't too bad. They mostly just jumped around. With the hangar secured, the squad advances to an elevator shaft that the Separatists have been using to load droids into the tree. After securing the elevator, the squad moves up the tree, leading to the final level of the game. At this point I decided to turn off the helmet HUD, and man, what a difference! I kinda regret not doing it from the start. With the citadel mostly secured, the only objective left is to destroy the Separatist dropship. The plan will be to man 4 of the heavy anti-air turrets and focus fire on the ship. This means gradually splitting up as we reach each turret. Sev departs first, then Fixer takes the next turret. Now it's just you and Scorch, and the game felt the need to start hurling enemies at you. You'll battle super battle droids, droidicas, and a couple of spider droids. It gets a bit hectic, but you'll manage. You're clone commandos after all. After dropping off Scorch at the 3rd turret, you start crapping your pants at the idea of having to fight a spider droid by yourself. However, there's only one room separating you from the next turret, and it's just Geonosians. The combined focus fire of the 4 turrets and a strafing run from some air support is enough to destroy the Separatist cruiser. As the squad prepares for exfil, Sev is heard struggling over the comms as he is attacked by enemies. The squad prepares to rescue him, but Command orders us to head for evac. Boss says he doesn't care if the orders came from Master Yoda himself, but it turns out they did. Reluctantly, the remaining members of Delta Squad exfil, not knowing what became of Sev. On the transport ship, Command reveals that our actions and intel were actually the advance force for a full-scale Republic invasion to save Kashyyyk. So basically this was the catalyst for the Battle of Kashyyyk, which is also seen in Revenge of the Sith. The squad gears up for their next assignment, and the credits roll. Well, that was great. I guess my only complaint is that it felt kinda short. It's still a 6 to 7 hour game, but I think only having 3 assignments made it feel quicker than it was. Maybe I'm being blinded by nostalgia and the fact that this is Star Wars, but I really have no other complaints. Seeing Grievous and Yoda was cool in tying this to the larger Star Wars universe, but I liked how the story was mostly its own self-contained thing. The gameplay was fun and engaging. On normal difficulty, it's challenging enough without being too hard or unfair. The squad AI is impressive, and commanding them around added a nice layer to the gameplay. The controls on PC were adjustable, so no complaints there. But looking at the Xbox controls, they had jump on the Y button, which is a bit strange. Aside from that, it looks fine. I guess it could have been interesting to be able to choose which squad mate does which command, but that would have added an unnecessary amount of microing. This game also had multiplayer, but I didn't play it as a kid, and I think nowadays if you want to play it, at least on PC, you have to join a specific Discord server or something. One team plays as the Commandos and the other as Trandoshans. There were 4 game modes for it: Free-for-all, TDM, CTF, and Assault, which is a weird version of one flag CTF. Instead of one neutral flag or retrieving a flag from the defending team's base, the attacking team must bring their flag into the defending team's base. It's a real shame that there was never a sequel to this game. Apparently one was in the works but got cancelled pretty early into development. It's due for a remake or a reboot. Imagine how awesome a 4-player co-op campaign would be. Even if they changed the format and made it Gears of War style, I'd take that too. Also, why haven't we gotten some kind of animated or live-action adaptation of these guys? The blueprint is already laid out. They could do it where each season is about the different campaigns. Like Season 1 could be on the Geonosis assignment, Season 2 the Assault Ship, Season 3 Kashyyyk, and so on. Or just take one of the assignments and make it a movie. Stay true to the source or tell a good story, and I guarantee fans will enjoy it. Well, we kinda got off track here, but all this is to say that this is a good game with an epic story. You can find flaws if you look for them, but that's generally how it goes with these older games. As a kid that loved Clone Troopers, I just really liked being able to play as one. That's part of the reason why I loved the Battlefront game so much, and why I think so highly of this one. I'd say this is one of the better games in the Star Wars catalog, and a decent FPS overall. Although this wasn't some grand childhood-defining game for me, it's still one that I have fond memories of. And hopefully someday, we'll see these 4 Commandos back in action.
Stand back, Delta. Good work, Delta.